Hi everyone, welcome to our first episode of the Let's Talk About It podcast. Today we'll be talking about transitioning into university from the viewpoint of students and staff alike. Why don't you introduce yourselves, everyone? I'll start with me first, sorry. My name is Jay and we have
T.
And we'll be your hosts. And we have a good selection of guests here, so why don't you introduce yourself starting with?
I'm Adriana. Should I give a background?
You should.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a PhD student right now in the game design department, and I also did my undergrad here from 2016 to 2019.
Okay.
Hi, I'm a member of staff. I'm a lecturer in urban sociology here. Monica, sorry, I forgot my name.
Hello, I'm Jelisha. I also studied my undergraduate degree here many years ago, but currently I'm student support and welfare manager within the student services department.
Thank you for being here, all of you.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Thank you for having us.
To talk about this topic, so you've all had some very different experiences, I feel, with maybe coming to the UK, traveling around. Why don't we talk about that first? So, Adriana, so before coming over to the UK in 2016, whereabouts, what did you do? Whereabouts did you live in?
So I was living in Italy at the time,
Mhm.
so I had been there for 2 years, and I was used to basically growing up abroad, so living everywhere, no set
Gosh.
home.
So- That means you've been a few places. Well, why don't you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure, I was in Korea and Germany as well, and in the States growing up, so lots of different languages and different cultures.
Can
Oh,
imagine.
wow.
Yeah.
Can imagine. And then you came over here to the UK. How was
Yes.
that? Was that everything all right?
Yeah, I think it was a bit different though than moving with my parents because obviously I was on my own. There was no support network here. There was no family, so it was kind of like thrown into the deep end. I didn't know who to talk to or what I was doing, and things like life skills like cooking and stuff. I wasn't too well versed in those, so it was kind of learning everything at once. So it was definitely a learning experience and trying to figure out what I needed to know that I didn't realize I would need beforehand.
Of course.
So,
I can imagine.
yeah.
And from all that traveling abroad before, do you feel like that helped you adapt more when you came over here?
Yeah, I think it resulted in a bit less of a shock. I was used to kind of foreign environments, so it wasn't too bad. I knew how to look up transport and using Google Maps, where to go and just navigating around. But I think just living on my own, that experience was not too familiar with being abroad. So it was kind of half and half.
It's kind of half and half.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear. How about you, Monica? How was it?
Oh, it's a long time ago.
fun
I'm
to
the
hear as
oldest in the room today. So, I came to the UK in 1992, actually. I'm originally from Barcelona, German heritage. I've lived in Barcelona, in Munich, Salzburg, Manchester, and then finally London. So I've moved around, and all that before I was 22. Yeah, so I came here then at 22 to London.
How was it for you?
Was it
scary?
No, I always wanted to come to London. London was my big dream, Britain, etc. So I did an Erasmus exchange with Munich, from Munich University to coming to Lancaster University. And it was brilliant. It felt lonely first, but then a bit like Ariana, I'm used to coping in different environments. So I've got my coping mechanisms, which is good books, for example.
Tea and good books.
TV, and good books. And I don't know, I always think of it as an opportunity almost to reinvent yourself. So Lancaster was a big change to Munich or Barcelona. It was quite a rural place, and I'm used to big cities. But I think you need to be quite proactive, and I'm quite, a chatty person. So I ask people to go for coffee with me, which some British people might find sometimes a bit strange and stuff, but they don't mind. And then you go out for coffee and you start meeting people slowly and build up. And I don't know, I had a good advice from someone in Munich actually when I felt quite lonely there. And she said every kind of time has its purpose. So if you feel lonely, read or write, and then maybe the next 3 months later you're so busy you wish you had some time on your own. So I've really kept that in mind, and I don't know, it helps me a lot to get through things. Yeah.
Can I ask, was there any culture shock for you both
Ooh.
when you first moved?
I would say huge. Sorry. But also I'm talking about the 90s in the UK, where even a croissant was a foreign object, in Britain, to be honest, outside London at least, yeah. So yes, it was a big culture shock. But I don't know, the essence is always that we're all humans, and especially at universities, it's always quite international. So I think you veer towards what you know. So I ended up in the salsa dancing club, etc. Yeah, and you start finding, your friends, because I lived on campus. It really helped me to live on campus.
Yeah.
And with people in flats, and yeah, some people I didn't really like that much, but others I really, I'm still friends with.
Yeah.
And you slowly, connect.
I think Brunel's quite good because it's got a diverse community, so it wasn't really a culture shock because, like, for example, all my flatmates, they weren't all British. Like, we had people from all over, so you're not necessarily thrown into the deep end of it's just British, like everything around. Like, it's quite an open community here, so I don't think there was too much culture shock. I think I might say the food. Like, I'm not too fond of British food, so I think for me that was kind of like the concept of beans on toast and that sort of thing. I was a bit thrown off.
I think I'm still thrown off.
Yeah, I don't think I got used to that yet either. But I think probably that was like the main thing. Everything else was good. Yeah.
And one more thing that I wrote in my notes, I need to mention, I think the drinking culture was quite a culture shock for me, even coming from mainland Europe. Like, in Spain we don't really drink that much, and then but also there's quite a pressure to drink, and I think it takes quite a bit to say actually no, I'm not into this, and yes, I love dancing, but I don't need to have three vodkas beforehand. I'm quite happy to dance without it, and it was finding that middle way, and sometimes I just pretended I was drunk although I wasn't.
I've done that before.
And then again you navigate constantly.
I think one of my biggest culture shocks, especially here in the UK, was coming from so I'm from Portugal myself. And people in Portugal, and I feel like it's the same with like Italy and Spain, they're very warm, and there's not too much personal space as well. You can hug someone on the street, like you can become friends, you just chat with anyone, and people here, it's just different culturally. And that was something that it just felt weird as well. Like, you sometimes in Portugal see greet people like a kiss on the cheek, and then here is the most wild thing possible. If you were to do that with someone, you could get your cops caught on you because of that. So I can definitely relate to that.
Well, that's a big point, actually. Yeah, the whole, just say hi like this, and I'm like, no, or I agree.
How about you, Jelisha? Maybe not in terms of culture shock, because I feel like...
well, I travelled here from Southall. Miles and miles and miles down the Uxbridge
That's like
Road.
a whole different continent.
I guess for me, my transition culture, I came here as a mature student. So, and I'd previously studied at another university, an undergraduate course, and I kind of came here determined that I'd come to study. I didn't want any involvement in any student union or anything like that. And then you get here and you think, well, actually, that's quite lonely. I literally am just coming here just to study and go home then. So for me, that was a bit of a shock to my system, coming here as a mature student, navigating with the younger cohorts and the older cohorts as well, because there were students that were much more mature than myself, and learning sort of how to do that and stay on track with my studies, but also what you were saying about the drinking culture as well. I mean, it's a big thing, but at this point I was over it and I didn't want to. And then you find, well, what can I get involved in then if I don't want to go to the student union bar? What can I do as a mature student? So for me, it was navigating that. But to be honest with you, and as I don't know how this sounds, but I actually developed such a great relationship with my personal tutor, because they were a mature person that kind of understood what I was doing, and they kind of gave me that guidance I needed. And then I had really good peer relationships with my cohort, with people I did group work with, who I could relate with because we had the same interests because of our course, but also we learned loads from each other. I hadn't referenced in years, and they were kind of on the ball with that sort of thing, and we could support each other with those sort of things. So not so much of a culture shock for me in terms of international travel, but I guess just going into a new environment can be a culture shock, no matter where you're coming from.
It's so true.
It is. So in the, as being part of the wellbeing department, have there been any very interesting or like students who've come across, who you might have come across, who they were just having such a hard trouble with university. And would you know any of their stories?
You don't need to name names.
Yeah, obviously no names to be provided.
So I work within the student support and welfare team, and our remit is anything non-academic that affects your ability to perform academically. So anything that might affect your life, and that then covers a wide range of things. And it's a little bit like what you were saying yourself. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And we have students that they're struggling and they can't. A lot of people say, well, what do you need to help you? And they don't know. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm struggling, let alone what support I need, let alone what's available. So a lot of what we do is about working with the individual, about what is the struggle, what's the barrier you need to overcome, and what can we do to help you jump that barrier. So there are, I can name numerous students, but it ranges from things like just the cultural difference, just getting here and actually not expecting this from university. And these are people that might have studied at other universities in other countries, but just not expecting this from studying in the UK. Different cultures and their perception of mental health.
Yeah.
And if that's something they even understand, let alone they're able to articulate if they're having difficulties with their mental health. So sometimes we're working with students that are going through a mental health crisis and they don't know it. They just know something's different, or friends in their flats or their classes have seen a change in their behaviour. And it's really working with that individual to try and understand what the struggle is, and then being able to say, okay, well, this might help you get over that, overcome that barrier so that you can progress, or let's support you to stop, pause and work on the issue so then you can really get the best out of your education experience. So yeah, we do a lot of that in our team.
It's a lot of reflection.
Yeah, and for the students as well as us, because we learn something from every student. And you know, our team was formed in 2017, and for a lot of time we were going, we've never dealt with this before. It took a while to come to realise that every single student situation was going to be new because that person is different, and there's one caveat that makes them different from the last student with a similar experience. And you really have to work with that person on what they need. So that's what we try to do.
No, that's definitely great. So something I heard you refer as well was recommending some things you can do to make it better, which ties in with the coping strategies. So I've heard a bit of your coping strategies. What about you, Adriana?
Well, I just wanted to comment too. One thing you were saying about the culture shock that I didn't even think to bring up was Freshers Week. I was not aware that was a thing before I came to the UK. And I think for me, one of the things with transitioning was I thought I had to do everything in Freshers Week because that's what it's kind of promoted as. And that was really hard because I had moved in like that right before the week started. And so I was dealing with homesickness and loneliness and how to cope with just moving to a new country and everything. So I think I signed up for too many things during Freshers Week and kind of burned myself out a bit at the start. But I think finding like one or two societies or communities that you can just feel at home with was like a big sort of coping thing at the start for me that like I had for the whole 3 years, just finding that initial support group. Particularly for me though, I think it was with my course rather than societies. So one thing I actually did was do like a WhatsApp group with all like the freshers, and we had a games lab, which we still do on campus just for our students. And so we do like gaming nights weekly on Fridays, like the first few weeks, just to kind of familiarize yourself with all the students. And so you kind of knew everyone before the first classes, so it was a bit less stressful and anxious. So I think that was for me, and then reading books and all that, having my alone time as well were like the main things.
That's very British tea.
I know. Yeah, the one thing I could adapt to culturally is definitely tea for sure.
Did you have any experiences with like a freshers fair as well, yourself, Monica?
You mean as a member of staff now? Well, yeah, I mean, I love it because campus suddenly becomes alive and there's so much, well, it's alive the whole year, but, you know, it becomes extra lively during Freshers Week, and there's a real buzz going around, there's music everywhere, and I always tell my freshers, you know, enjoy it and make the most. You know, after Freshers Week, the serious stuff will start, but make connections, and often it's the people you meet in the first few weeks that you bond with, or you also, I mean, I'm quite clear cut always, or you might say, actually, no, you're not my cup of tea, I'm moving on, but do it quite quickly, you know, just couple of times.
It's really big friends and enemies.
No, and I think it's a really great way of dipping into a lot of different things, societies, bands, and just talking to everyone. And we staff also then chat to everyone and try, like I always try to bring different students together, because it's that first hurdle,
Yeah.
you know, that's so difficult often.
I do have to say, Brunel has a lot of societies.
Well, yeah.
No,
And it grows every
definitely
year
does.
too.
It
Like,
does.
there's always
Yeah.
something new.
I think
It
we're
does.
at this year 150 societies
Oh my
and
God.
about 30 to 40 sports clubs.
Yeah.
So quite a bit. I know during my first year, during freshers, it was very interesting. So I don't think they do it anymore, but residences used to do a group chat for your flat, for your hall. Apologies. And so you got to meet everyone like a few months before actually joining university.
I think we did that
Yeah.
as well, yeah.
So by the time you were there, a lot of people already knew each other,
Yeah.
and we even made. In my case, we had this little group chat, which was for the people who didn't want to go out to like parties on freshers and wanted to just stay in, play
Yeah.
some cards, just hang out.
Yeah.
And like I made some really good friends during this time. It was honestly great. And in a lot of these events and things for the union that they hosted, a lot of these societies I just went and tried out. I'm still part of them, like to today. Like I've made a lot of friends and a lot of acquaintances through a lot of this. So I feel like Brunel definitely is very good when it comes to this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of any other university with such a big how would I put it? Like it has such a good fresher experience. I feel.
No, it's true. Everyone does say that about Brunel.
Uh-huh.
A lot of my friends have said that about Brunel, that they've heard so many stories.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to say though, I feel like I was born here, but I lived in Sri Lanka for about 2 years growing up, and I made it a key thing for when I moved to Brunel and I stayed on campus that I was going to talk to everyone, whatever background, whatever they look like, whether they look like they were my cup of tea or not, I was going to still talk to them, interact with them. And I think that was a really big thing, because Brunel's so diverse, it's so easy to remain in a little clique and be stuck in a little box, but it also encourages you here through the different societies, through the different events, to get to know other people that you probably wouldn't have spoken to before.
You know what I feel like is the thing that it kind of shocks me a bit is some people I've noticed a lot. They come here from abroad and they just usually tend to stick within groups from the same ethnicity. They don't branch out. They do everything together. It's almost as if they never left home.
Yeah.
And I feel like almost that's a
It's
waste for
sad,
me.
yeah.
It's a waste for me, because Brunel is such a culturally diverse environment. It's a shame not to really make
Mingle.
Yeah.
We do find that with the international orientation program, because students come they're from all different countries, but they're all international, and they do sometimes request, or can I meet people from my country? But we really try to encourage not only for them to interact with each other, but to actually interact with our home students as well, because of what the knowledge sharing between them, the experiences they can share. But I've noticed that as well, and it's probably a comfort thing. You sort of stick to what you know.
I do agree.
But university is that time to take chances.
Oh, exactly.
And make new experiences. So we try to encourage mingling across the campus.
So I know how you said your mission was to talk to everyone. no
Literally,
matter
I
who you were.
did. I
My
did.
one was to talk to everyone except for people from back home. Because I feel like if I was just to talk with people from back home, like, what's the point? I can do that at home. I wouldn't have come to the UK if I was to just chat with them. Not to say that I'm not still friends with some people from Portugal here, but
So you didn't join the society? I'm
I
assuming.
did. I don't go to the right activities.
I didn't join the Sri Lankan society.
But also, I'm just thinking now from a staff perspective that all the departments have the induction days during the Freshers Week as well, and it's really another good way of meeting people, so that you meet people in the residence, you meet people when you're walking around and going to the fairs, but then you also can meet people within your subject area, whether it's games or sociology or English, whatever. Yeah, and we really encourage their people to interact, and we have games, etc. going on, so that they meet each other and exchange phone numbers, and
That's really cool, honestly. I think for me, but I think it's to do with my course. People in engineering, they take a bit of time sometimes to become friends and become acquainted. So there's definitely, I know a lot of people who they've gone 3 years of the course and they hardly know anyone from the course. They haven't had the time or just the will to really talk to anyone. So
It's quite sad though.
no, it is a bit. It is a bit. I feel like they might talk to other people outside. Like
Yeah.
within the course, there isn't too much of a community. I feel,
Yeah.
which is interesting. It is very interesting. But I think other courses are very much more attached. I think like games design, for example.
I think it depends though, because like for games design, we have such a small community, so it's
Yeah.
much easier to like organize different events for everyone and make those chats and events and all that. But for engineering, I'm sure there's much
Yeah.
more
It
students
is.
than
Yeah.
So I think it's just coming at it from different departments.
What
It's
was your
harder.
experience in
With
yeah,
sociology.
with sociology?
I
Yeah.
remember starting my first year and being like, I'm going to take this very seriously. And one of my good friends that I mentioned to you earlier, we actually didn't speak for about 2 years.
Oh,
We were on the same course.
Yeah.
We did not speak, and we spoke at the end of our second year, and we became really good friends. But I was so closed off at the start in terms of like when I went to lectures, and when I was at uni, I just focused, library focused. I interacted a lot with my flatmates. And it's really bad, but I left it till my third year to start socializing more and getting to know people better. I'm pretty sure my course in itself, though, everyone was friendly.
Yeah.
But I had tunnel vision, and that did ruin the experience for about 2 years for me. But yeah, no, in terms of my social work masters, I took a completely different route. We have a group WhatsApp chat, and I actually have ended up becoming friends with a lot of older students, and we sometimes meet outside of uni. We have phone call catch-ups. It's really good, and we support each other with our learning and with our essays and all of that. So I feel like it's a learning curve
Yeah.
for me.
Interesting. It's interesting.
Wouldn't expect it from you, would you?
Not at all. Not at all. That's very interesting. I forgot something that I was gonna say. Sorry. That's interesting. So, you've all been here for quite some time. Is there anything that you would have done different, for example?
I think what you were saying, I kind of didn't join as many things the first years as well. And I think for me, I kind of convinced myself, like, after Freshers Week, like, I can't just join a new society. Like, term 2, it would be weird if I just showed up and tried something new. And it was trying to get out of that mindset in year 2 and year 3 and just being open to, I can try new things at any time.
Yeah.
And so that, like, towards the end of my degree was when I started having better experiences because I was getting out of that mindset and actually doing the things I wanted to do. So I think for me, that was like the biggest thing of, like, you can join a society anytime, you can join a sport anytime, like it's never too late to try, so.
That is very true. That is very true. How about you, Monica? Would you done anything different?
No, it's too long ago again. I'm trying to remember. I think I would have done more trips actually. I think I be adventurous and again talk to people around you. But I go to Brighton, Bournemouth, I don't know, wherever around Britain and even Paris. You can take the train to Paris and have time together, doing things. I think it's quite important because that makes you also talk and relate to each other. What else? I did a lot. I went to raves. So I shouldn't say that. Probably in public.
A bit of salsa dance.
Not salsa there. No, but really, I don't know, go out and enjoy. And I always say to my students that it's 3 or 4 years, and I know it's difficult to comprehend when you're younger, but it's the only time you have to think and to do things and go out, and you don't have big responsibilities. I know a lot of our students work, fair enough, I understand that. You should be working, but also have fun, enjoy, and, take in what's out there and make the most of that free time, during uni to think critically and be and enjoy life.
Of course. Anything from you, Jelisha?
So I agree. I would have, especially when I came to Brunel to do because like I said, I was very focused on I'm come just to get my degree, and I was very regimented. I completely forgot that student experience is more than just coming to your lectures. And I think I agree with probably all of us in this room that I wish I'd spent a bit more time, because you learn everything from all of your experiences, whether it's good or bad. And I wish I'd taken the moment to actually take this as a time that I was moulding myself. That actually it's okay to stumble and make mistakes. And I guess my biggest thing that I would change is I probably would have spoken more when I was having difficulties. I wouldn't have focused so much more on what do I need to help me. I would have probably have gone out and told someone what my issue was and let them help me find what support I needed. I think a lot of students don't come forward for help because they can't think for themselves what they need. And I think it's just knowing that people in the university understand that.
Sometimes they might not think they need help at all.
Well, I would say, again, with my staff hat as a lecturer on that, your personal tutor is your key point always. And I've always encouraged, and Kadini knows that, students talk to your personal tutor. If you don't like them, look for another member of staff, but talk to them and they will put you in contact with what you need, or maybe just listen. I'm quite happy to listen, and sometimes that's all you need.
I think the personal tutor role is so underused.
Yeah.
My personal tutor at Brunel was amazing, and she will never know what credit to me she was. And now I see her in meetings, and I don't think she even remembers I was a student here, but she will never know how much she supported me. She could have supported me more if I'd been open with her about what I was struggling with.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just never gave her that opportunity. So I agree with you as well. Utilising your personal tutor, and it's.
I don't think I did that as much when I did my undergrad, but when I started my masters, bless your high, because he'll ask me, how are you? And I'm like, and he really listens and takes it. He's like, okay, so this is what I can do for you. And then he'll also check in. We'll check in after, like, how's it going? Are you experiencing it any better? And I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Students sometimes forget that they're personal tutors, they're lecturers, they're people.
Yeah.
And they've had their own issues and they've overcome them, or they've got life experiences and they'll share and they'll help you. And I think that's why I like the barbecues, the department barbecues in Welcome Week, because it's your chance to sort of interact with your academics and your lecturers, but on a social basis, and you get to know that they're people.
There's also free food.
I was going to say, turning up with the free food.
That too, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I definitely get that. I feel like definitely for my first years in my course, I definitely did not use any of these services. I think it was more of a question of I didn't think I needed help, and just maybe like overcoming my own pride into getting help. But now that I actually like realize there's so much help and everything around, and even like what we were just saying, the lecturers and the academics are there that you can talk to. Like they're actual people.
But you don't think it, do you? When
You
you're
don't
sitting
think
there
it initially. No,
lecturing,
initially.
that you've
Yeah,
got
exactly.
this imaginary barrier between yourself and the academics. But now, because I've studied here as well, when I sit in meetings with them and they make jokes and you're kind of like, that wasn't funny, but you're like, they're your people, just personable people that you can approach and you can talk to. And there are a lot of services out there, I think. And that's why it's important to talk about what you're struggling with, because you're not expected to know every single service that's available or every support network.
For sure. One thing coming back as well to the whole university experience, I feel like that's something, I really like the university experience, like the student experience here in the UK compared to like other countries. Like Portugal, for example, they have none of this. They don't have like residences, like you can live on campus. They have no societies. Maybe you have some clubs that show up. That's really it. The departments aren't involved at all. So I just really feel bad for them back at home. And my experience is so different. It feels so foreign, this. And even like America, it's
I was
really
going to say,
well.
especially for like accommodation, I think that comes to mind first. Because in the States, I mean, they cram like 3 students in a really small room, and like there might not even be a kitchen. So then people are like having like a kettle trying to do what they can in one room. And I think here and the UK especially, just having the option of the ensuite room or even just the shared, like you still have the communal space, you have the kitchen and you have a place where you can meet everyone, but then you get your own private space. And I think having that sort of private space that you can retreat to and have time to yourself is really important. And I mean, for me, it made like a huge difference just because acclimating to the new culture, the new experience, just having a place that I can go to and have calm and relaxing whenever my mind's like on overload is really important.
No,
Yeah.
it just feels so foreign. I don't know. Because I wouldn't guess many of you here have had any university experience from outside the UK as a student.
Yes.
You have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
No, I've been in Germany and Spain. Yeah, I did
How was
both.
it? How's the difference between?
Well, it is what you say. They don't the campus mentality that it's like a village almost here. But that's very unique to Brunel and some other university. But especially Brunel is not there in many places in Europe. I mean, I went to Munich University, a huge urban university. So people also don't some stay with their parents, to live at home, etc. And it was just going to lectures and going home.
Mhm.
And in Spain it was very similar as well, because there's hardly any residences there. Again, people say very local when you go to uni. There isn't this culture like in Britain that you go miles away from home. Which is very, I still don't know if I agree or disagree with it, because I find it also strange that an 18-year-old would want to leave home so far away, now that I've got my own, children. But it's very, very nice that you have a campus and all these, different opportunities on campus. But one thing I wanted to mention, I've got in my little notes of a coping mechanism, like the room. Having a room on your own is so important in terms of decorating. So, and one thing I really thought about when I came to the UK is how will I decorate my room? And I packed some things that reminded me of, home or whatever makes you feel good, so that your home becomes your castle. And it's a place where you feel, relaxed, etc. I think that's quite important as a strategy, first few months.
To also make it your own.
And you feel at home then in your room, despite maybe feeling culturally a bit, all over the place, etc. And
it does make a difference.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah. And then keeping up some routine. I don't know, I'm getting noisy.
Don't worry.
Well, having some routine to life. I always tell my first years, like go running or swimming, whatever sports you like, but do it regularly, or drawing, like have a bit of a routine. And again, that's the adult, well not adult, but the lecturer here talking, like don't stay all day in bed, please. I know now and then it's tempting, and do it on a Sunday, but have during the week a bit of a routine to your life. I don't know if you think the same, but it helps, to feel better as well.
I think my coping mechanism in my third year was obviously having a dissertation. Kind of like,
That's a coping method.
No, the coping mechanism to that was, yes, I went to my lectures, seminars, was in the library a lot, but I would go to the gym. I haven't gone to the gym since, but during that time period, it really helped.
So you have to start a new dissertation now.
Then I'll go back to the gym next year. But I'm back.
Well, I mean, people forget when you're 18, and I do remember being 18, you're still, there's, I don't know, like you're still very, very young. And it's quite a big, even cultural change, going from your parents' house 50 miles away to Brunel. I mean, it is, you suddenly stand there, mum and dad go away in the car, mum is crying, dad as well. And then you stand there and think, oh my God. And I remember that moment that happened to me, in Germany when my dad left. It hurts. It hurts. And it is the first 2-3 weeks, and that's why Freshers Week is so good. You do feel very lonely. You don't have your family or friend kind of network there. And it is hard.
It is. I do agree with you were saying a bit earlier about how busy Welcome Week is, and that you sometimes feel like everything needs to be done in Welcome Week, and that's something we're trying to tackle within student services. That because what we find now is that Welcome Week ends and people kind of deflate. They go, there's nothing happening, there's nothing to do, and it's like, no, there's plenty happening still. But you now got to go a little bit extra out of your way to find.
It's not thrown in your face anymore.
Exactly, and it's keeping that going throughout the year so that people have opportunities to meet people and to try new things consistently. It doesn't all just happen in it's life, isn't it? You're constantly learning stuff, so you can jump in any time that you want to and try something new.
I'm pretty sure Brunel have an app where you can see all the activities.
I think last year, or when I started my PhD, like a year or two ago, they had that. They had the app with all the freshers activities and like their venues and stuff.
They did it for freshers and campus catch up last year. We used an app, and mainly because so many people were remote at the time, it was a way of exactly what's happening if you're on campus or off campus. You can access this on your phone, and but I don't think they're gonna have the app coming up for our next.
They should.
Well, hopefully it'll all be in person, and then we can put posters everywhere and advertise it.
It will be in sort of an area that people can just sort of wander around. But that's sort of what Freshers has always been, isn't it? You just sort of show up. You don't book on anything really.
Or you sign up and then you just don't.
Don't turn up.
I think that's really important also for next year. And I don't know, Jelisha, what your experience is, but I hope students please come to the lectures in person, and don't stay in online, like 2 meters away from the lecture theatre and your residence. Like, it's really important we start having again our face-to-face interactions.
I definitely agree.
I agree. Staff too.
Yeah, okay, good.
In-person
I
meetings
agree.
again.
I do like the dual delivery method, how you can choose to either be online or in person. I do much prefer the in person, obviously. I just feel like I just can't focus if I'm at home. There's so many distractions.
I learned
My bed is
better.
right there. I could go to sleep instead.
Open another tab, put a video on or something. It's so easy to get distracted.
Yeah.
But it's also another way to like meet the rest of your cohort and to interact with your lecturer. I feel too.
Yeah.
That 5-minute break in between a 2-hour lecture or afterwards when you're walking out with someone and you both are heading towards the coffee shop and you go, oh, should we just sit together?
Yeah.
Those opportunities are missed online, aren't they?
It's hard to
No,
form
it's
the
true.
connections. Yeah.
And education isn't just in books. Education is the human relationships, the interactions, thinking, arguing together, disagreeing. All of that is what makes university this amazing critical thinking space.
It really is.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agree.
And I feel really bad for the people who started last year. Because it was right peak middle and COVID times. They didn't have any freshers. They didn't have most lectures were all online as well. So they missed it all so much. So I know this year we had to deal with almost 2 batches of freshers almost because no one was accustomed to everything. And that beginning,
it's not a great start.
No, it isn't a great start. But those first few weeks is when ultimately you make like so many acquaintances and friends that will last you throughout the whole 3 years. And missing that, like I've talked to a few students who are now second years. They feel so lost. They don't know anyone from their course or academics. So it's definitely hard. And I'm guessing if you're coming from abroad as well,
that must be tougher.
it must be even tougher.
Yeah, I agree.
It was nice though that the campus did the second freshers fair. I think it was in the second half of the year, like later on, because they didn't have the in person. So I think that was like a nice step to like try and reintroduce the sort of introduction that students missed. So
Freshers' Fair is kind of where we sort of demonstrate what our community is. So people actually get to see what the Brunel community is like, how vibrant it is, the different types of cultures on campus. So I guess if you haven't experienced that as well, you might still have that sort of your identity. You might think, do I fit in? But when you've walked around during Welcome Week and you've seen all these different things going on, it's easier to find your area that you fit into.
So true.
I spoke to some students during campus catch-up, the last one, who had been in self-isolation most of their time, so they joined Brunel. And they didn't even know what they'd missed out on because they were like, oh, well, this is just our experience. And that was sad for me because I was like, oh, we've had some really good Freshers' Fairs and Welcome Weeks and your experience would have been a lot different.
But it's good to see now, a lot of the departments are coming together now. A lot of these meetings and reunions we've been having, and hopefully the fresher experience and the student experience is just going to get better from here on out. With all the departments working together, the extra academic departments. So I think that'll be definitely very good for the future. Yeah.
It's exciting.
It is exciting. So I have a question for you three. Do you think it is worth it going abroad to study? And
I
why?
think so.
And why?
I mean, for me, having grown up abroad, like I love experiencing new cultures, and I think it really, for like personal growth and development, like I think it's really important to get out there and see the world. So I think just having 1 year for your studies and trying something new, especially because university, like we were saying, is just a time to try something new. That I think that's a really good opportunity. Obviously, like you have to take into account like financial and all that sort of thing. So if it's not feasible, it's not feasible. But if there is the opportunity, I think Brunel does like Erasmus and so they have schemes available. So I think it's good.
Yeah, I'm the child, the outcome of all the international exchanges. No, definitely. I came to the UK, as I said, through Erasmus exchange, and it changed my life. I met my partner here. I made my career here, and I'm very grateful to what Erasmus had to offer while it was there. And I think British students should also go abroad. I think there's a certain hesitance.
You're right.
Like I was the Erasmus coordinator at Brunel in my department, and it was difficult to push people to go out there. But by now, all over Europe, they teach in English, so
Yeah.
it's not really a big problem. It's also much cheaper to study on the mainland, I must admit, and say,
that's very
can
true.
cut this out if you want.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's just such a life-changing experience, even if you don't stay in that country, but it makes you more employable, because you learn to deal with very different cultures, problems, issues, and you show you're adaptable.
Nice.
So.
Definitely.
I completely agree with everything you both said. I'd say so. If you can do a study abroad program, definitely do it. I think if anything, this is the time in your life to make the most of your experiences, take every opportunity, and make mistakes, because that's ultimately what we're going to learn from.
And it just helps build your character up.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
100%.
really figure out your identity through those experiences, and it's really important, I think. It builds you. It's character
It does
building.
It's kind of cool.
The University of Life.
Yeah, because also one thing is to do tourism and to go abroad, or even, I think it's quite popular in the UK to go to South America for 2 months. But 2 months isn't a whole year, and having to live, and cope with 12 months of being embedded deeply, somewhere. So I think I would always encourage everyone to go abroad, definitely.
Because I know, coming back to what you said, Monica, a lot of people are very hesitant about leaving.
Yeah.
And it's like that with every country, I feel. Here, people from the UK, they're very hesitant about leaving and going abroad. In Portugal, it's the same thing. I was one of the only ones that I know there who actually went abroad to study. But for me, it does make sense. I'm from a very traveled background. And I just feel bored after a while just living in the same country. So I don't know. I couldn't do it myself personally. I feel like staying in just one place, one country. There's so much out there to explore, so many different cultures, and like.
I think it's like because some people haven't gotten to experience that, so it's the hesitancy because you don't know what to expect. You've never done it before.
No, that's
but
so
then
true.
I've never heard anything bad about anyone who's studied abroad. They've always enjoyed their experiences. So it's just making that first step, I think, is very difficult. Yeah.
And I anticipate that universities in other countries have a support service or a form of a service, even if it's one person. And it's just, I guess, being proactive, isn't it? Finding out where am I going and what have I got available to help me when I get there, and making sure you've got that connection. That helps reassure people, I think.
No, for sure. For sure. We've talked a bit about this throughout, but what support do we have here at Brunel for new students?
International students?
International.
So we have the International Orientation Programme, which takes place at before Welcome Week. And it's a week of activities really to induct students into the UK and study in the UK. Bearing in mind, these are international students that might be on a postgraduate course, that might have studied in the UK previously, might have never touched foot in another country ever before in their life. So it's a really wide range of students with different needs. What we try to do in international orientation is not be too focused on this, and this is available. You must remember these numbers and email addresses and offices. It's more a case of be aware of how you're feeling, be aware of how those feelings change. Just be aware of when you might be feeling different to what's normal for you, your normal level of stress, your normal levels of anxiety, and when you might need some additional support. And at that point, you just need to know to speak to somebody at the university. And we've worked a lot in the background of the university, making sure that colleges and departments of professional services know how to signpost into the welfare areas. So it doesn't matter who you speak to, someone's going to know a website to give you or a phone number or point you to the right office. But international orientation is really about acclimating to the UK and sitting in a room with people and looking around you and going, actually, we're all in the same boat here, or different variations of the same boat, and we're in it together. And giving them that opportunity to just feel comfortable in the setting of Brunel before they hit Welcome Week and it's a campus full of different people and, it's all a bit overwhelming. So international orientation takes place at the beginning of the year, as well as an airport welcome service. Obviously, at Heathrow is only about 20 minutes away from us, our local airport. But we still want to go to the airport, and we do. We have students go and they wave as students come in, and free.
so
There's pickup
nice.
services as well.
Yeah, so students can book a free taxi service or a minibus service to the university so that we get them here quickly and safely so they don't have to stress about that. And then we really talk to them about things like, do you know how the Oyster card works? Do you know that you actually need to have something to pay for public transport? Do you know how to get a phone contract? Do you know how to open a UK bank account? Do you know how to cook? Don't forget, we like to queue in the UK, so when you get to Costco and you see that long queue, you join the back of it. We don't do pushing in here. Little things like that where people go, oh, I didn't even think about that. I didn't think that was important, but we try to do those low level things rather than the higher support things where we know students need that when they require it.
Yeah.
We make them aware that these things are available, but we get in depth when they need it. Orientation is really about getting them comfortable, and then throughout the year student support is there for international student support, so to talk about anything like culture shock. If students are having issues with visas or immigration issues, we connect them with the immigration team to sort that out. So we're there throughout the year, like I said, for what that student needs at that point in time. I really love Welcome Week, International Orientation and graduation, because in between them we usually don't get to see students at their highest points, but we see a lot of the students that we see at their lowest points get through those areas, and it's amazing to see how far they've come. So my team gets a lot of benefit from seeing students succeed and progress.
You're seeing them grow.
We do, and there are students that I speak to before they get to England through international orientation, see them at the programme, and literally then it's 3 years later at their graduation, and you kind of feel like you've been with them along the whole
That must
journey.
be so emotional.
It is for us, not so much for them.
Yeah.
They're not even aware that it's happening.
You know, people are like, is that your mum clapping at the back of the wall? It's not.
Oh, that's very interesting. So we all those supports and support systems are all there for international students. Is there anything as well for students who might be facing some hardships from back at home, or maybe homesick, maybe now as well with the current situation? See this from Ukraine or Russia. Is there like any support as well built in for that?
So this question we get asked quite often. We don't have any general support, so I can't put a blurb together because it is so individual. So for instance, with the crisis in Afghanistan and the crisis in Ukraine, we had some students that couldn't get to England, and we had, I mean, it wasn't just our team, it was working with the alumni team who look after our study and global engagement, who look after our study abroad students, and extracting students from their home countries to get them here at 3 o'clock in the morning and making sure they had a warm coat for the next day and things like that. That's the kind of support we give on an individual basis. And then there's connecting them with sort of organisations like maybe like South Black Sisters, or organisations that work with specific cultures and groups, because sometimes it's having that sense of familiarity that I can sit there and say, I understand what you're going through and I'm here to help you, but sometimes you need to have some sort of shared experience. So it's making sure that our area is well knowledged in what's out there so that we can signpost students to the most appropriate support for them. There's obviously financial support available for students, so we have the hardship fund, we have things like financial arrangements students can ask for to help alleviate any financial burden on them. And then we have our counselling, mental health and disability teams, and they're there to really work with students that are either going through something specific they need support through, or just making sure that the playing field is level so that a student with a disability or a condition can achieve the same as any other student in their cohort, because they've been given the same opportunities and they've been given any adjustments they need to level it out. So we make sure we're connecting students with those services so that they can get that support in place.
That's very good. Okay, so I wanted to ask something as well. What would be, in a sense, to wrap things up a bit, what would be some tips or recommendations you would give to a new student coming in from abroad, from your experience?
I'll think about that for a bit.
Well, for me, for the new students coming in from abroad, no question is stupid. If you're thinking it, someone else is probably thinking it, so ask. And take every opportunity, and that's within safe reasoning. So students sometimes think that they set out, don't have too many expectations, don't plan out your university journey and expect it to stick to that rigid, because it's very unlikely to, and that's when we have people that have put themselves under too much pressure, and sometimes there's a break. Just go with the flow and try to take every experience as either a lesson or something to learn from. So yeah, don't be held back by your own fears or expectations, I guess is my top tip.
Honestly, try new things for me, like that's the biggest one. Like there's so many opportunities here that you might never get a chance again to try something like this. So for example, like I signed up for the language courses the first year, tried something new with that. Just trying the sports and societies. Like you can learn a new sport, like that's fine. You don't have to join it and already be good or pro at it. And also I think learning to ask questions, like it's fine to ask anything, nothing's too stupid. And I think back to the personal tutor, like if you don't feel comfortable in a classroom, you can build up that confidence and just go to your personal tutor and you can ask them questions afterwards, or you can email your lecturers after the lecture and be like, hey, I didn't want to ask this in class, but and just building up that confidence to ask whatever you want and making sure your experience goes smoothly and that you get what you want out of it. So I think those are the two main,
I'm just thinking as well. What can I add? What's already been said? Be proactive, definitely. Don't be afraid to reach out. And I would say also the third one is make use of London. We live in one of the most interesting, diverse cities. And you know, my passion for cities, like I love London. There's so much to see and do nearby, further afield. You don't have to go to the East End and maybe discover, you know, I don't know.
Southall.
Southall. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, anywhere, you know, around the west of London. Go on the tube, go on the train, and just get off at a random tube stop. That's I do that with my son a lot, and we just explore.
Lost as well.
I don't know. There's so much out there, and there's so much for free culturally. The museums, most of them are free. Theater, you can get discounts as a student. Get your student card to get discounts of everything. Yeah,
that's the best bit.
So make use of this amazing cultural opportunity and dive in and go for it and take a new friend along, and that's how you start, you know, mixing and meeting people.
You don't want to have any regrets.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think the discount code too. That makes a difference.
One thing that I saw prior to this whole podcast today, it was a quote from your LinkedIn, how you really traveled a lot.
Oh, me?
And how you loved the different feel of different cities. And that's super interesting. It really is. It's so interesting to go and visit. That's actually something I'd love to do, is just go and visit like different like capital cities. It's so different, just wandering around, just not so lonely. It's honestly the best. Maybe not sometimes the UK can strain you.
Bring an umbrella. Top tip.
Bring an umbrella. What about you? Any top tips?
Any advice? Don't be scared to try something new. I think a lot of the times when you're scared of something, it's because you're scared of the unknown. But uni is a place for you to figure out who you are, what you like, what you dislike, and it's okay to make mistakes. And basically that. Just throw yourself into it.
I agree. I think especially like for freshers coming in and living here on campus, everyone is in the same boat. Like the people you're living with, everyone's as terrified as you with everything. They have no skills whatsoever at all. You're all in the same boat. So it's a great place to just really bond with each other and make friends and kind of get over all these struggles together.
Yeah.
You build such a good relationship with other people.
I also think it's important to find your voice while you're here.
And your voice as well.
It's true, because also like you'll build your confidence and then you leave uni and you'll go into the big world where you have to get a job and maybe move and interact with others. So I think it's really important to start finding your voice at uni.
I agree. Really agree. Any last words from the three guests? Any last comments you would like to make? Anything regarding this topic?
I know. I think you should look forward to coming to Brunel. It's a great experience. It's one of the most international campuses in the UK, and I think even worldwide from what I've seen from the rankings. And it's just such a brilliant experience. And we're a very friendly campus, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, going back to what you said about finding your voice, this is a really, especially at Brunel, with it being so diverse, you don't have to be like anybody else you meet here. You actually have a space to be you and to fulfill that. So, you know, take that opportunity. Don't feel like you have to fit in with what everyone else is doing. Be you.
Be you.
And you guys have such nice words. What else is there?
You have to end with something poetic.
I don't know about poetic.
No pressure.
No, I think we're just highlighting, to try new things and just finding your own voice and finding like new hobbies that you like, new sports, just stuff that you didn't think you would like, just being open to trying new things. So, yeah.
Well, I think that was a good way to wrap it up. Thank you three, for joining us today.
Thank
it was
you
great
so
speaking.
much.
Thank you for having us.
Next time, what do we have? Do you know?
Oh, we haven't decided.
We haven't decided.
We have a list.
We have a list of next topics, but look forward to either how to find friends and how to make friends and dealing with loneliness.
We will be making a post on
We
our Instagram.
Where can they find us on Instagram?
Yes, let's talk
Where?
about
Let's talk about
let's talk about it,
Of course,
Brunel.
of course. Well, we hope you enjoyed, and we hope you tune in next time to join us on this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.